So, again, we're going to move forward with our next speaker, which is Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman. He was elected in November 2019 as the Lieutenant Governor, and in his role serves as the President of the Senate. He began his tenure amidst the global pandemic of COVID-19. He helped oversee the $1.25 billion in federal funds that were used to help purchase personal protective equipment, create small business grant programs, and expand broadband to rural communities across the state. He was committed to limiting liability for businesses and healthcare entities as related to COVID exposure, which led to legislation that has been held as model legislation across the country. One of the biggest steps we've taken here in Mississippi was done in the last couple of years, and it set a course for what I think is going to really make a difference, and that is consolidating our workforce development efforts with the creation of the State Office of Workforce Development. This has been a long-standing goal of MEC, and we believe that this coordination is going to lead to higher job skills training through this single office and will pay long-term dividends. His essential experience in the private sector has paid off, and his 3 terms as Secretary of State before taking Lieutenant Governor role did as well. So please give your attention to our Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hoseman.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you. Always good to see you. Boy, it's good to be back out. Good to see everybody again. I've finally been able to move around and get to shake hands and talk to people again. We miss the camaraderie and the intellect we get from talking to you and being around. And you learn a lot. And sometimes it's a little humbling, like the other day when I was out shaking hands and visiting, a lady came up to me and said, I know you. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I see you on TV. I said, well, yes, ma'am, you do. She said, you're doing a wonderful job as Attorney General. I said, ma'am, you even got the wrong sex. I do want to talk a couple of things today I think are important. First of all, we did shrink the SWIB board last year. We do have our workforce czar here. I think elevating our workforce training is a key component, never more than it is today. We did create a safety net for small businesses out of the CARES Act money. We put $300 million to help small businesses get ahead when they were so troubled in the last 2 years. We've been working on broadband. I don't know anybody's been talking about that as much as they need to be. We put up $75 million. Co-ops put up another $75 million. At the last count, we had over 100,000 new homes that the co-ops had reached across Mississippi with broadband, and that was critical during the distance learning part. We gave you the ability to meet, have your board meetings without having to be in person. I thought that was critical. We used to do a lot of that. And we held down unemployment insurance benefits. Over $398 million went into the unemployment insurance benefit fund, so you don't have to pay any more taxes for your businesses, for your unemployment tax. That's critical. It's now back. We paid over $1 billion out of that fund, and that's now back to where it's solvent again. There's some issues that you're facing right now, and I want to be real clear about that. We're doing the same thing. This is my year. We trade with the Speaker about being head of the Legislative Budget Committee. We have to set the budget here in a couple of weeks. We're going to face inflation. Nobody needs to tell you that we're going to have inflation, and significant inflation. Look at almost 50% increase in gas prices. Look at where you can't buy a refrigerator, or you can't buy a stove, and your lumber prices are, and all the way down the line. We are going to be faced with inflation in Mississippi, and we need to prepare for that at the state level, just like you're doing at your current level. The other matter which we have, and I have had a number, I can't even tell you how many conversations we've had about a qualified workforce. Somehow, Mississippi still continues to only have about a 55 or 56% workforce, and in the workforce itself between age 16 and 64. Time after time, each and every one of you have talked to me about the fact I can't find anybody. And when I talk to companies and say, look, what are you doing? Like one company I spoke to the other day, that's in North Mississippi, that delivers concrete. How's it going? That's going fine, but I had to leave almost a third of my trucks in the place today. We didn't even leave the concrete company today. Why is that? Because I can't find any drivers. Well, how much do you pay them? $67,000 to start, plus health insurance and a retirement plan. They can make $75,000 or $85,000 a year working for me. That's what's happening in Mississippi, and we as a group and as a state need to be prepared for that, and we will be. It has been the very best years for many of you, and others like my hospitals and my restaurants have suffered greatly. We intend to make sure that all of us proceed at the same process. Last year we passed MFLEX. That was something the economic developers did in Mississippi. Watch MFLEX. It is the way we give an easy way to calculate by just telling how many employees you're having, how much you're paying them, what county you're in. I can determine your benefits for either new or existing businesses really with less than 2 minutes. You can see what your tax benefits will be. It will spur your economic development in Mississippi as we go forward. We need the MFLEX program. It is an offset against our state tax liability that will spur your growth particularly if you're a small business. Most of our growth right now, quite frankly, our wheelhouse is 25 to 200 employees coming to Mississippi. That MFLEX program will accelerate that process. We do need to train the workforce. Like the speaker, I've been meeting with Ryan Miller and the others that work on workforce development. We intend to fund their activities completely. I want you to know that we're not going to subsidize programs to teach people how to make $10 an hour. That's gone. What we're going to do in our workforce development is make sure that workforce development is giving that person the ability to make a substantial economic positive impact on his life and on the people around him. Training our workforce doesn't begin when they're 18. It begins with pre-K. And it begins with when that child has the opportunity to first pass the third grade reading gate. Look at our test scores this year. Look at the test scores that we had in our schools. As many as 35% passed the early learning English. That's not acceptable in Mississippi. That came out of the fact that we had the pandemic. It's not acceptable for us not to have an educated workforce, and it doesn't occur when they start at 18. So we will need to support education. Our teachers got a pay raise last year. They need another one. And we need to proceed from right here until the best people are standing in front of our children to get them ready to go to work for you. So we shouldn't be hazy at all about the fact that our education system is our workforce development system. I can see there's one principle here. I want to talk about the American Recovery Act and how we're going to spend that money. We're at $1.25 billion. I just checked today. We're at $29 million over this month in revenue over anticipated expenses. Only thing I can say about that are two things. That's awesome, and the second, it won't last. So what we have been given is $1.8 billion for us to allocate, $900 million to the cities and the counties, and now we have $1.25 billion over revenue. That's revenue the taxpayers of Mississippi gave to us, that you gave to us, businesses gave to us, gaming, all of the income streams that we have here. The legacy for the legislature this year and for everybody that's in it or works there is how we spend that money. If we do this right, if we're able to match our cities and counties with things that go in the ground, not for 1 or 2 years, but for 1 or 2 generations, we will have a tremendous asset going forward. That's how our infrastructure gets done. We'll have an infrastructure bill, whether the federal government has one or not. We'll have an infrastructure bill, we'll have a water bill, we'll have a sewer bill, we'll have a broadband bill, we'll have all of the things that you need for right now to make sure that your businesses prosper today and your children have some place to come home and work to. That's what's so critical about spending the American Recovery Plan bill. I'm pleased to announce today that Senator Briggs, Hobson, and myself been spending hours on this, much like the Speaker has, and we have our select committee appointed. The chairman will be Senator John Polk, Senator Albert Butler, Senator Dennis Barr, Senator Hillman Fraser, Senator Walter Michel, Senator Rita Potts Parks, and Senator Bart Williams. will head the committee, and they will be holding hearings, getting started on how we're going to allocate this money in conjunction with the Mississippi House of Representatives to make sure that we do transformational projects. Been a lot of discussion about tax reform, tax relief. Mississippians need tax relief. Human capital is where we go for Mississippi. The human capital is the best thing we've got. Our people are what we got. How many times have you had people come to you and say, I have never been to Mississippi before. You're the nicest people, the greatest people. That's our asset. And in addition to that, we have water. When you go past Dallas, Texas, there's no more water. We have low-cost electricity. We have the greatest agriculture in the world. We have so many things to sell in Mississippi, and part of that is our human capital. That human capital needs to be trained, and it will be trained in Mississippi. And on relief, that human capital needs relief. Raising taxes on businesses is not relief. Mississippians leaving more money in the hands of Mississippians is relief. Mississippians need tax relief, and this year they will receive that. I want to thank each and one of y'all for all of the things you do for the Mississippi economy. You are ground zero on what we do here. The role of the legislature is to make sure that we stay out of your way and you keep as much money to invest in your capital expenses and in your human capital. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to a really good year this year. Y'all hang with us.